Uh, Here's another article I wrote in my PC Mag days. Just as a side note, slash FYI, slash reminder to self, when I started writing technology news, I barely had the concept of journalism down, like, as a skill. And I had no idea anything about technology. I had seen an iPod for the first time in my life, like a couple weeks before I started working there. I never heard of the word Bluetooth or like anything. So it was basically like I had to teach myself journalism and technology and try to write articles that made sense and hope that no one like realized I had no idea what I was talking about. Sort of like the Shopaholic, like Rebecca Bloomwood when she was a financial journalist and she had no idea about finances and she was waiting to get caught out like the whole time she was doing her job because she didn't know anything about financial journalism. Little kids on the bus knew more about finances than her. Old people did. It was the same with me. Also, like in Sushi for Beginners, how Aisling wasn't a proper journalist. She was just a keen organizer with an eye for detail, quote unquote. So that was like me, PC Magazine. So, although I sound like a technology nerd that knew what I was writing about, I really didn't. Anyway, back to the next article. How safe is intellectual property overseas? Written on April 25th, 2006 by me. It was an article when the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative issued its annual report on the adequacy of various nations' IP protection. Okay, back to the article. A report issued today by the Office of the United States Trade Representative, USTR, outlines a roadmap for addressing international property rights, IPR, concerns with global trading partners. In the annual Special 301 report, the USTR identifies countries that need to take stronger actions to combat piracy and recognizes a number of countries that have made substantial progress pursuant to the Trade Act of 1974. As another side note, this was the article that I meant to read like as my first one, but just because I remembered I was assigned it at like 3 o'clock, like almost at the end of the workday, and I had to read through like 10,000 pages to write it. And I was like, "Are you effing kidding me?" To my editor. He was like, "No, do it." And I did. So that reminder was why I wanted to read this one, but then I got confused. Anyway. The Trade Act was signed into law in January 1975 and grants the U.S. President authority to enter into international agreements to reduce import barriers. The 2006 USTR report places 48 countries on the United States Watch and Monitor lists. The priority level watch list currently includes Argentina, Belize, Brazil, Egypt, India, Indonesia, Israel, Lebanon, Turkey, and Venezuela. Quote, although this year's Special 301 report shows positive progress in many countries, rampant counterfeiting and piracy problems continue to plague both China and Russia, indicating a critical need for stronger intellectual property protection in China and Russia, the USTR notes in an executive summary of the report. The USTR maintains that Chinese IPR enforcement lags behind several commitments that the country entered into during the 2004 U.S.-China Joint Commission on Commerce and Trade, JCCT. In accordance with the JCCT agreement, China agreed to expand its anti-piracy initiative, increase criminal prosecution, and begin fighting software and user piracy. In addition, quote, in October 1998, the United States announced an executive order directing USTR to undertake an initiative to work with other governments, particularly those in need of modernizing their software management systems. Most recently, the U.S. welcomed the April 22, 2006 agreement by China that it will require computers to be pre-installed with licensed operating system software. As a result of the software license agreement, China's largest PC maker, Lenovo, inked a deal with Microsoft this month to pre-install Microsoft operating systems on all computers made in China. Lenovo has said it expects the agreement to result in $1.2 billion in sales of Microsoft's Windows operating system the next year. The agreement was signed one day before China's President Hu Jintao flew to the United States to dine with Bill Gates, before traveling to Washington to talk politics with President Bush. While the 301 report recognizes China's IPR-related attempts, it says Chinese infringements remain at unacceptable levels. The USTR says it will scrutinize IPR protection at the provincial level in China by conducting a special review later this year. MPAA Chairman and CEO Dan Glickman issued several public statements in response to the USTR announcement. Glickman said that the report provides leadership for dealing with global piracy issues. Quote, "The situation in Russia continues to be of great concern as well," Glickman noted. "Until the rampant theft of intellectual property is addressed in a meaningful way, we will continue to push for consequences, including pressing the U.S. government to withdraw Russia's eligibility for reduced tariffs until that time," end quote. The 301 report goes on to describe and outline United States efforts to bring Russian IPR protection on par with international standards. Although the USTR noted some progress in terms of combating piracy and counterfeiting, it intends to keep Russia on its priority watch list. However, quote, "There has been significant progress in several countries this past year. For example, Brazil made significant progress on copyright enforcement by adopting a national action plan to enforce copyrights and reduce piracy, increasing seizures and prosecutions, and developing public awareness campaigns," end quote, the USTR notes in the report. The USTR announced a number of countries that it has removed from its watch list due to significant IPR-related progress. It notes that Azerbaijan was removed thanks to IPR enforcement progress. Kazakhstan and Uruguay were both removed due to progress on the copyright enforcement front. The USTR also added a new section to its report this year to, quote-unquote, "highlight notorious markets." The new and notorious section identifies several, quote-unquote, virtual marketplaces or websites that deal in infringing goods. These include Russia's alofmp3.com music site, China's Baidu MP3 search engine, and Taiwan's Kuro P2P service. Quote, "This list represents a selective summary of information reviewed during the Special 301 process. It is not a finding of violations of law," the USTR notes in its report. Looking toward the future, the report also sets a number of priorities to strive for over the next 12 months. Among them, combating internet piracy and implementation of various free trade agreements.